when we think about disabilities, we sometimes make misjudgments or we actually make assumptions about what that person's living through. On today's show, we're going to be speaking to a very young man who has got a disability, but his passion in life is to actually convince and show people that having a disability has got nothing to do with assumptions. Hi, this is Joey Buzzettel, and welcome to the Secret Men's Business podcast. On today's show, we're going to go all the way to the UK to speak to a young man who's got a passion to show that disability means nothing and living life is all about having adventures and fun. And today we're going to welcome Charlie Randell to the show. Charlie, how are you?
Good, I'm good. Glad to be on the show.
Yeah, we're both experiencing early or late, aren't we? You're late, I'm early.
Yeah.
And thank you. You and I have been trying to get onto this podcast for a while, so I'm glad that we've finally hooked up. Sometimes the time differences are really hard, but I think they're the ones that are worth waiting for. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yep, so my name's Charlie. I'm 22 years old and I live just outside London in a small town called Bexley.
So with the topic of this podcast, it's about disability. And I know that you have got a disability and that also you have a passion to sort of show people that life doesn't have to be different. So do you want to just, I guess, tell us a little bit about how the disability has impacted your life and maybe what the disability is so people can understand where you're coming from?
Yeah, so my disability is called cerebral palsy. It was caused by when I was 4 weeks old, I didn't have enough white blood cells to fight off infections. The doctors sent me home slightly too early and I actually caught a throat infection, which led to me stopping breathing altogether. And then essentially it sounds a lot more dramatic than it is. I had to be revived like 7 times. And because of lack of air to the brain, it shut down a small part of my brain that controls like my finer manipulation, controls your balance, and just generally makes life a little bit more challenging, but it keeps it interesting. And yeah, since then I've sort of grown up with the condition, so I don't know any different. Oftentimes people ask me like, "Oh, how does it feel to be disabled?" And I'm like, "It's normal to me. I don't know any different." So it's really hard to sort of answer that question, but I try and answer it the best way I can through my different projects and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like while you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, like, you don't know any different. And like, so I've got a disability, but I got my disability in my 40s. And so I understand the difference. So I had to like learn how to walk again, and I had to learn to let go of, for example, I can't run at the moment and I can't jump. So I have to think to myself, okay, I can't do those things. How do I get used to it? So for you, do you feel like your mental state is telling you that you can do anything that you want?
Yeah,
so that's all you know? Yeah.
I think that's a big credit, to be fair. It's a big credit to my parents. They kind of didn't really treat me any different. They just chucked me in at the deep end, and anything that I wanted to do, they were like, right, we'll figure out a way of you doing it. So I didn't really know any different. Obviously, I knew as I grew older that things I had to do to live that life was different to those that would normally do it. But yeah, other than that, it was just a case of you've just got to be creative. Like sometimes I sit and look at the things I do today, day to day, and I'm like, God, to the outsider, this is going to look weird as hell.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, I know that you've lived your whole life that way, and for me, I don't know. I've been able to see other people, and I remember a day like I was going to the doctors, and I was in a wheelchair, and it was raining really heavy, and we had to cross the road, and my mum was pushing me. And I could see all these people walking towards me and they all were staring at me. And either they looked at me and they looked at me with really sadness, or they didn't look at me at all, right? So it was really quite an interesting feeling. So for you, what do you notice what are some of the things that you notice that people do or say that you go, what are they doing?
I think, like you say, it's that whole staring thing is quite normal. And I think particularly growing up with a condition, you develop quite a thick skin. Obviously, it gets me sometimes, but most of the times you just brush it off. I think it's just that whole, like I say, it's that strange thing of you either get the over-inquisitive person that won't stop staring at you, or you get the one, I'm going to face the wall and pretend you don't exist. And it's like, why are those two extremes? But I think it's just, as I say, people are either too standoffish, or I find not too forward, because I'm a very open person, but to some people who also have a condition, it would probably come across very like, whoa, okay. So it swings and roundabouts. You always get people that are really standoffish, and then you get others that just want to come up to you and ask a million questions.
And
Um,
with the second one, like, I mean, I know you can dismiss it and you're really cool about it, like, but I can imagine that there are going to be some people that are really just, they just don't think. What would be? Do you mind if you maybe give us an example of what you think would be one of the most extreme situations where,
uh,
especially with the assumption thing. It's the assumption thing that I just find so funny when
yeah,
people think that you can't even. They think that you can't think or something.
yeah, I think one of my favourites has to be. So I've got an able-bodied girlfriend. We've been together for 4 years. We live together. We do everything. Like it's a very normal relationship. And I think one of the funniest ones I had was someone said to me, came up to me one day, and they said, if you and your girlfriend have kids, will they come out in wheelchairs? And I'm like,
Oh no!
my girlfriend's not part Iron. She's not part Iron Man. She's not Pepper Potts. She doesn't just and out comes a blue wheelchair or a pink one. It's
I
it's
know.
some
See,
people just say,
I would have had fun with that, Charlie, and said, "Yeah, they do."
"Oh, I did. Oh, I did." I said, I turned around and said, "Yeah, they come out in pink, blue, and we can change the tires. We can do all sorts."
um,
Um,
I know that you run a business, don't you? That actually
yeah,
encourages this whole awareness thing. Um,
yep.
what demographic do you think are the ones that need more education? Is it the older generation, or do you think it's more the younger generation? Like, because I
Um,
know there's been a lot of work on acceptance and all that, but where do you feel like most of your work's being done?
I think a lot of it's the older generation just to develop understanding because they'll have an older, more old-fashioned view, if you like. But then I think the big one, the big surprise that there's a lot of people is like the middle range, sort
Mm,
of 28 up to 30. It starts getting a little bit questionable, just because I think from that they've got the older parents that they've got the information from, and then you kind of have to change their views, and it has to be a very open person to sort of accept that change. But I think as well, a lot of my work, obviously being a 22-year-old, is all to do with young people,
mm,
and it's trying to show the big drive of NQPC is to show that a young person lives a normal, young person with a disability lives a normal young person's lives. Like we go to bars, we go to restaurants, we go to clubs, we have girlfriends, we go to parties, we get drunk, we do all of it, but everyone
mm.
seems to think, "Oh wow, like you go out to a bar," and it's like, I don't. I'm not a werewolf. I don't stay in all day and just.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
where do you think that comes from then? I mean, like, I understand. I mean, like, I don't know. I guess I don't really know anyone personally who asks those questions. Maybe because I'm
yeah,
older, and also I think. I mean, this is going to sound terrible, but when I was growing up, I think that disability was very much hidden away. It wasn't something that it is today. And I
yeah,
know that the Secret Men's Business Group that I run, we have a lot of disabled people in that group, a lot of men in that group that
yeah.
that talk. So it's really good that you're on the show. So yeah, where do you think that comes from? How come people have those misconceptions?
I really don't know. I think it's that whole thing of, like I say, they're locked away, and it comes back to my point of let if you're a parent with a kid with a disability, just let them do. I think that's the big thing is people think that you're chained up in the back room and just left.
Yeah.
Maybe they might bring you a sandwich if you're lucky, but
Oh,
I think just that whole thing of like we don't go out or we can't be let out on our own because it's not safe, and we'll do something stupid. But then I'm like, isn't that most 22-year-olds?
yeah.
um,
So you're saying it's mainly it's there's a parent thing where people either want to protect you and wrap you up in cotton wool
yeah,
versus your parents wanted to, I guess, push you out into the world and make you survive and do your thing. And you're a testament of that because you got your girlfriend, which we saw in the background there, so well done. And and you've been able to live on your own and all that, so there's an independence that was shown to you. Like, do you actually do any work or do you have access to other disabled guys or women who, I guess, don't have that? Or are you mainly working or speaking to people to help them understand disability?
so I do a lot of work more so with sort of the people coming from like 12 to to sort of up to 17, 18, trying to work with the mums and the dads and them to show them what's possible,
Mm.
and then show the parents, because I try and give a first person account of what it was like as a person with a disability, because oftentimes parents are stressing out because they don't know what's going on, they don't know who to ask, and that way I can give it from the horse's mouth. I can say, look, this is how he's feeling, this is what we can do to support him with this dream. Like a good example, I bumped into a friend that a friend who's got a little I say little boy, he's probably about 4 or 5 years younger than me, who he doesn't really get out much. He really wants a girlfriend. He really wants to get active, just get out in the world.
Mm.
And I had to sit down with his mum and just say, look, like just let him be. Like if that's what he wants to do, let him try it out. Let him go out with his friends. I know there's that whole fear of he could fall over, he could injure himself, he could I don't know, he could do anything. But that's part of life. That could happen to anyone. It doesn't have to be someone with disability. And also, you'll find most of the time those people with disabilities that get let out and explore the world, we tend to grow up a little bit quicker. So we're a little bit more streetwise, and we actually clock on and go, actually, that's probably not the smartest idea. But I think so. I do a lot. I do a lot of work with parents and deal with that more fear side of things, and show that it's not the end of the world. I think as well, because in my day job, I also work with kids with additional needs, helping them find suitable school placements.
Mm.
So it sort of combines quite nicely with that. So I say a big thing of mine is helping parents and kids, and obviously helping as well people my age that think, oh, I can't do that. I want to show that yes, you can. If you need advice, come to me. I mean, I've had guys. I remember I did a what do you call it? A blog post with one of the big broadcasters, BBC over here in the UK, where they were doing a thing on disability dating, and obviously with my partner, been together 4 years, and a guy pop up, and he was like, like I really want to get into online dating, but like I don't know whether to talk about my disability on the site or not. Like, do I hide that away? And so we went through. I gave him the advice. Obviously, I can't speak for every girl. I can't speak for every guy. I just gave him what I thought and said, look, you just have to try it out. Unfortunately, dating with a disability is one of those things where it's difficult. It's going to be hard, and you're going to have to take some knockbacks. So it's quite nice to sit with him because you could tell his confidence was low.
Yeah.
And it was quite nice to sort of bring him up a little bit and say, look, it's hard, but we can get there. Like, you just got to keep throwing stuff at the wall, and eventually something will stick.
Yeah, I mean, like it's just like anything, anyway, it's all like clicking with someone, isn't it? And so, I guess I'll talk about what you just said. So, when you say it's hard and there's knockbacks, is it a lot? Is it aggressive knockbacks, or are they nice?
It depends on the person. Like I've had some dodgy ones. I've had someone essentially dump me because they've suddenly realised, oh, I've got a physical disability, although we'd been friends for like 4 years. Like, how did you not connect the dots? But as I say, I think it's more just you're like particularly in the dating, like things like Tinder, Plenty of Fish, all the different dating websites and apps, is that they don't actually know you for you. It's that whole trying to make a first impression from a photo, and as soon as you start the conversation with, by the way, I'm in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
not the biggest turn on. Yeah. So I say I have had some knockbacks. It's more just being persistent and going. Okay,
and I guess that's their problem. That's their perception. So if you don't mind me asking, now you've been talking about it for a lot of this podcast. Your girlfriend. I think this might help people that have got disabilities listening. Like, do you want to just tell us the story? Like, how did you meet? And I guess your girlfriend didn't see the disability, I'm guessing, and she saw you. So how did that play out?
So it's actually a really weird story. So my friend, I live in in central England. My girlfriend's originally from the further up north than I am. It's about a 2-hour drive from me. And basically, my friend went up for a job interview all the way up there. Near her sort of neck of the woods, and basically they got stuck in a room together. They started chatting, and they found out that both me, well, my friend helped me with my YouTube channel, and then they found out that Gina, she ran a YouTube channel as well, and they were like, oh, you get on really well, and maybe you should like bounce ideas off of each other. You probably come up with some good stuff, and then um, and then sort of went from there. We started talking on social media. Obviously, it all started very like, oh, business, and then it divulged more into where here we are now.
So how did that? So yeah, so from that, how did you make the move, or did she make? How did? I'm sorry, this is really personal, isn't it?
No, I'm an open book, and we've talked about it. We talked about it online before. It sort of it sounded like a cliche. It just sort of happened. There was no like, there was no set thing of like, right, we're boyfriend and girlfriend now. This is. I think it was kind of like, oh, actually, this could turn into something, and it was just like we spent ages messaging over social media, and that's how we first sort of met, quotation marks, and like we actually spent like the first, I'd say probably month, just firing questions at each other, finding
Mm,
out different things about each other. Obviously, just the question of disability came up, and I just answered it as I normally would. I'm very my icebreaker I tend to use is I tend to make a joke about my disability, just because that eases off any anxieties that people have about talking about it openly or worrying about offending me. I'm gonna say, look, like I'll offend myself. Do
yeah.
you leave that bit to me?
And
Um,
also, I think you're very confident, and you're very like I love your energy. You're very mature for your age and empowered, and so that's that's good, and I think that's an inspiration to other people. So I'm going to ask you
yeah,
the,
yep.
the taboo question. Like, what are the assumptions that people make around sex? Like, I remember when I was in the wheelchair, and I went looking online, and I was
Yeah,
really shocked, Charlie. I found this whole world.
yeah,
I found this whole world of disability, like aids and tools, and I'm like,
yeah.
oh my god! So what did people assume, and B, yeah, like tell me what you think about the whole sex topic.
I think people assume that my bedroom's like some weird contraption jungle, that I've just got machines everywhere where we can try out different things in different positions.
Well, there are
And
machines like that, aren't there?
yeah, there are, but I must admit, that's not. I'm one of those guys. That's not me. I'm like, I need some flexibility in my life. I need to be able to do it when and where I want to. So we kind of just worked it out. I remember there was many moments where I was like, God, in any normal circumstances, this would be the most awkward experience of my life. But I just remember me and Gina would just spend 5-10 minutes just laughing at the fact that we're trying to figure this out, and then we'd crack on as if nothing had happened. And we're like,
Yeah, that's
such
good.
a strange experience. But as I say, the misconceptions are that either we don't do it, or that like I just, which in fairness, when we first started, I was just lazy and just left her to it. um, but I think that's one of the big misconceptions is, yeah, I just
Yeah,
sit there and do nothing.
so do they? Are there assumptions where people think, like, can you, or do they think
Yeah,
that you're like, there's like when you
yeah,
take your clothes off, there's like nothing there or something?
yeah. I mean, the other big shocker is I'm ginger, so that's another question that I always get asked. Does everything match? And I'm like, okay, here
Oh
we go.
God.
Um, so
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, yeah, they have. Yeah, people think that, oh, the question people always ask, does it work?
yeah.
And you're like,
Well, sex is a taboo question. Then you've got a disability, so you put them together. So
yeah,
people's brains explode thinking all these bizarre things. And
yeah.
actually was thinking that now you've got a partner, you're out there, you're out and about, you're happy. Do you find that there are women that actually are turned on by that and they actually hit on you? Do they? Are you? You know what I mean? Because that in this day and age there's so many
Yeah.
fetishes and interests and all that. And sometimes when you're happy, people are really attracted to that. So I'm just wondering, when you go out, are there the moments where you find that you are being hit on?
Yeah.
Because
um,
you're an attractive guy, so like I can
yeah.
imagine that you would be, right?
I mean, it's a lot of like, I think people get, as you say, I'm normally got quite good energy about me. I'm the loud guy. I'm the energetic guy, which people find really weird because normally the disabled guy is the shy guy. So I think that energy draws people to me because I'm just a very open book. I'm open to making jokes. So I think a lot of the time when people do come up to me and go, oh, like you're a really cool guy and like a really good looking guy, it's a lot to do with that energy and that positivity. And obviously, I'm not saying I'm always happy-go-lucky, everything goes
Mm.
great, 'cause things don't. But you just got to roll with the punches. I mean, yeah, I mean, a funny little anecdote along this line. I remember I must have been 16, I think, and I was at a party, bumped into one of my sister's friends, and she looked me up and down, and I mean, like full on 10 seconds up, down. Went, you dress quite well for a disabled person. I was like, sorry?
Congrats.
I was like, did you think I was just going to turn up in purple?
Pajamas or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, and it's good that what you're doing. I mean, you just mentioned that you're not always happy, but you know you are pretty happy. I mean, you've woken me up, so thank you. What do you? How have you handled, or you know, if there have been any problems, what's your go-to to handle any mental health issues that you may have?
I, without talking about her throughout this whole podcast, I must admit,
You know, that's okay. It means you love her. That's good.
Gina's a massive help. I mean, particularly because of there's that like positive energy of. I think the biggest thing for me as a kid, and this is what I can relate to, was that I was like, oh, am I like gonna be liked? Am I gonna be? Am I ever gonna be in a relationship? And obviously, me and Gina have got a really strong bond, and like, there's that sort of go me moment when I go, actually, I got a really cool girlfriend and like life's okay. And so oftentimes like I'll just sit and chat with Gina and say like, this is what's on my mind, this is what's going on, and she sort of manages to somehow spin it and go and pull me out of that hole.
Mm,
Particularly as well because Gina herself has suffered with anxiety and things like that, so we can relate on that level. I think as well with anything to do with mental health, I think obviously disability is a massive part of it because it's something that you're different to everyone else, so there's something internally that you just have to sort of interpret and deal with. But I think it's also important to mention that like mental health affects everyone, and
mm,
it's not just to those individuals that are quotation marks, and I only mean this in the expression term damaged. um
mm.
it's to everyone, and I think there needs to be more conversations of just saying like it's okay to have a bad day, like just talk about it, get it out there, and get and you will come out of that hole. And I think the more we can open up that conversation without it being, oh, you're sick in the head, and it's like, no, you're just having a bad day. Like we all have
Mm.
them, some more than others, but we just got to work around it. And as well, I've got a really solid group of friends that we've gone through a lot of struggle together throughout school. Like I'm still friends with my school friends, really close, and they're really good at pulling me out of the hole and just turning everything into a joke.
Yeah.
And like I say, they're because they know my history, so they can. I remember once I was out drinking, and one of my friends just came up to me and was like, "Yo, you got that look in your eye. You're turning. What's going on?" And we just sat there chatting about it. And by the end of the night, I was up dancing and doing whatever else I was doing.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
it's just
Um,
having that ability to pull you out of that hole. And I think as well, it's a big thing I've learned off of Gina is finding that thing that like comforts you. So for me, it's stuff like going off and listening to music, or finding big distractions like playing PS5, playing PS4, and just doing things like that. And I think as well, I mean, I'm going to say this because it will link in quite well with the podcast. It's a big distraction for me, sex.
mm.
I think that's
Yeah.
the big one because I think for me, I mean, I've spoken about it like the whole confidence thing. When you have a disability and you're worried about that whole scenario, whenever that happens, it's kind of like for me, it's like a bring you out of that hole. Like, okay, like yeah, life's okay. Like it pulls you out of that hole and puts you in a really good mood. I mean, it releases endorphins anyway. But I think for me, it's that whole thing of like, see, I can do normal shit.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. And what do you think? Like, you know, I don't know about the UK, but Australia is now slowly starting to do things to help with acceptance and all that. So, what do you think is missing, or what would you like to see happen from a government point of view when it comes to disability? Is there anything that you have on your wish list that you would like to see change?
Big one for me is accessible public transport with obviously a lot of the central London buildings being like listed buildings and historic buildings. They can't quotation marks adapt to them, but it just doesn't feel like there's enough being done to make that available. Like for example, and I'm sure this is the same in Australia. In the main cities, you can earn a lot more money than you can on the outskirts.
Mm.
But the main reason that people with disabilities don't go into London and do that travel is because it's far too stressful and it's not worth the money.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's all changed now with the pandemic and people working from home, doing things like doing everything over Zoom. So that's been a massive bonus. But I've spoken to a lot of the disabled community that have got a lot of frustration with that because we were screaming for that 10 years ago.
Mm.
And
So
all of a sudden,
when you're saying about the historic buildings, they can't add a ramp or something.
no, so they can't.
Oh.
With a listed building in London, they can do very limited stuff. They can do like a, you know, the ramps that like go over steps. They
Yeah,
can do
yeah.
those, but they can't like change the building. So
Mm.
it's really frustrating, particularly like for train stations. A lot of our train stations are listed buildings, so they can't change those. And some of, like literally, for example, I have to go 2 stops past my house to go to an accessible train station.
Wow. Wow, that's so good, is it?
Yeah, and then the other thing that's really weird is I can travel to my local station, but I can't travel back to because of the way the platforms are laid out.
Wow. And
So
so what's is there like a group, or are you doing anything to
yeah,
protest
so
that?
I've done some work with Transport for London. They're doing a whole campaign at the moment with promoting like getting their assistant staff more clued up when it comes to dealing with disabilities and more open to disabilities because I've had it. I've had train wardens. They're really awkward and like I'm like I don't buy it. I just need a hand to get the ramp out so I can get on the train. But so I've done some work with them. I work with an app here in the UK called Access Able. So what they do is they do accessible guides. So it's like so say for example I'm going to I don't know Charing Cross. I can type in Charing Cross on my phone and it will show me if there's step-free access, what the average door widths are, what the lighting levels are like for anyone that's visually impaired, what the noise level are like for anyone that's on the autistic spectrum or anything like that. And it's really good. It's just that the only step I think we need to make is just push it harder so that everywhere is covered. So it's just you type it like it's like Google. You type it in, go, and
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and I think that's a big project of mine, and I'm really grateful to be working with that
Mm.
company because
Do you
it's a
think?
great
Do you
initiative.
feel that you're like? Do you feel confident that this is going to happen?
I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think in my lifetime.
Oh, really?
Just because British government is very slow in moving. My opinion is that we could do a lot more than what we're doing now, and there just doesn't seem that drive to it. Because I don't know, I don't know what it is. I mean, we do a lot of campaigning to show what we call the purple pound, which is the money that's brought into the economy by disabled people. It's over 6 billion. I might be wrong. My friends are going to be slating me for that. But it's a lot of money that businesses and government just don't seem to be approaching. I mean, amount of times I'll go to a shop and it's like, oh, there's stairs, and
Mm.
now I can't go into that shop. But then I sit there and I'm like, so you don't want my? What's the difference of my money and Danny's money? What's the difference? Like, what's the? I could pay. I can give you more if you want. Um,
Yeah,
and it's just that whole thing, and I just don't think we're moving quick enough. And I think we need to modernise. And obviously, the whole quirk with London is with that quirky Harry Potter life
mm.
thing. When we go to central London, and I just don't think there's that ability to just flick a switch and turn it, which is a shame because I
Yeah.
think
I
why
guess
not
it,
make
there's a. It sounds like the historic part is we need that because it's beautiful, but we also need to adapt, don't we? So I guess
yeah.
before we finish, the last question, like, what would be your message to people about, like, if you could just broadcast this to the whole world, what would be your message about disability? What do you want to tell the world?
Ask a question. That's all I want to say. Like, ask a question. My biggest bugbear is people come. Like, I say bugbear because I completely understand it. My biggest bugbear is people coming up to me, quaking in their boots because they want to go to me. So what's with the wheelchair? I really don't understand it. I'm like, mate, I get asked this question like 15 times a day. I can answer this in my.
What
Because I
they're wondering why you're in there. Do they think it's not real or something?
No, it's not even that. It's more with that example. I mean, I'd much people are worried about asking the most straightforward questions, and I'm like,
Mm.
look, if you got like, I'm not going to treat you like you're an idiot.
Yes, like, I can see you on television. You should be on TV. Like, I don't know, do you follow tennis? You know that the disabled tennis player in Australia, Dylan? Yeah. So see, Dylan is probably, he reminds me of you. He's like loud and happy, but he's on a major radio station. He does a lot of shows on TV. And he's really, really changed the whole perspective. So I'm gonna push it that you become a new TV star in the UK.
I'd love to. I mean, that was actually it's a project on mine. I mean, I want to get more involved in TV. Obviously, I do YouTube. I love the podcast. I love just sort of talking to different people, because everyone's got a different story.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm the worst person for going to a bar and just being like, so let's have a chat. Like,
yeah, and that's good. I mean, look, you're such an inspiration. Like I said earlier, I was so tired when I woke up, but you've totally woken me up. So thank you so much, Charlie, for taking the time out and for really making us aware that we're probably the not normal ones. It's us, not you've got a pretty exciting life. So look, have a great night. I know it's nighttime there, and again, thank you again. And I'll put all your information down below. So if anyone's interested in reaching out to Charlie to ask a question, or if you want to know anything about his business, then just click on the link. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, mate.
No worries at all, mate. Cheers.
Bye. Okay, you've been listening to the Secret Men's Business podcast. This will be out on Mondays. And don't forget, on Thursdays, we do retro podcasts. So you can listen to some of the old stuff that we've done. Now, everyone have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.